Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Aasif. Thank you to all of you. Good evening, New York. It's such an honor to be included here in this evening with all of these incredible writers and these advocates for Palestine. Also, I want to thank Raad Rahman, my manager, without whom this event would not have been possible. She's put so much of her heart and soul into Voices for Gaza. When October 7th happened, I had just begun giving a series of lectures at Harvard University titled To Save and to Destroy, Writing as an Other. And given the theme of those lectures, and given what I've devoted my entire life to with my writing, and given how much Edward Said's thinking has influenced me as a writer and as a scholar ever since I was an undergraduate, I felt I had to address what was happening. And so early November 2023, I gave a lecture at Harvard on Palestine and on Gaza. This is an excerpt from that lecture. The ultimate silencing is death. And Mahmoud Darwish argues that America's support of Israel is inextricable from the deaths of Palestinians. In Memory for Forgetfulness, his memoir set during the Israeli siege and bombardment of Beirut in 1982, Darwish says of Palestinians that America still needs us a little, needs us to concede the legitimacy of our killing, needs us to commit suicide for her, in front of her, for her sake. Describing the Israeli shelling of Beirut, Darwish could be narrating the Israeli attack on Gaza 41 years later. I don't want to die disfigured under the rubble. I want to be hit in the middle of the street by a shell, suddenly. If anything might help us rescue us from the sadness and despair found in Darwish's memoir, it could be expansive solidarity. Limited solidarity, where we define selfhood narrowly, keep our circle of inclusion small, and do not contest the identity of our community, leads to the most acceptable kind of politics and art in the eyes of dominant society. Expansive solidarity, where we find kinship with unlikely others in an ever-widening circle, is more dangerous. Two other writers who embrace expansive solidarity as they deal with Israel and Palestine are Nadine Gordimer and Amos Oz. In Gordimer's Writing and Being, she describes being an other in her own country, apartheid-era South Africa. Gordimer criticized her white-ruled society, a stance complicated by being the daughter of European Jewish immigrants. Consider, Gordimer asks, how her parents could come to South Africa and suffer hardship while opening a store in view of a community of black miners. A generation later, the immigrants and their children have become upwardly mobile and moved on, but the black miners remain where they are. The problem, Gordimer understood, was one of racism and settler colonization, both of which she and her immigrant parents profited from, their Jewishness less important than their whiteness. Gordimer invokes Amos Oz of Israel as another writer critical of his own society and his place in it. Both Gordimer and Oz, writing about 30 years ago, are depressingly still relevant. She focuses on his novel Fema, whose title character she describes as carrying both the embittered history, millennia of persecution of the Jewish people, and the embittered history of their occupation by conquest of land belonging to another people, the Palestinian Arabs. Oz depicts Fema, an outlier among his fellow Israelis, saying, "We're the Cossacks now, and the Arabs are the victims of the pogroms. Can a worthless man like me have sunk so low as to make a distinction between the intolerable killing of children and the not so intolerable killing of children?" In one charged symbolic moment, Fema comes across a cockroach in his kitchen and raises his shoe to smash it. But looking closely at the cockroach, he was filled with awe at the precise, minute artistry of this creature, which no longer seemed abhorrent, but wonderfully perfect, a representative of a hated race. He leaves the cockroach alone. For Gordimer, the hated race, persecuted and confined, is FEMA's own. He is himself the cockroach, and at his moment in history, in the occupied territories, the Palestinians. And he himself is the hater, the persecutor, the one with the hammer, the raised shoe. Expansive solidarity requires capacious grief. I come back to the grief of Mahmoud Darwish. At his memoir's end, he brings up Haifa, a city from which Jewish forces expelled most of the Arab population in 1948. When Darwish asks a fellow Palestinian where he hails from, the man replies, Haifa, but I wasn't born there. I was born here in the refugee camp. To be from somewhere but not born there describes an exilic feeling that descends generationally, leading to an existence, Darwish says, in a middle region between life and death. The sense of loss and exile that Darwish describes is familiar to me. I came to memory in an American refugee camp, and I was raised in a Vietnamese refugee community that demanded that others always remember and never forget what happened to them. This demand for memory is important, but it can also trap us in our otherness and prevent us from seeing that we, too, can harm others. What saves us from that trap is expansive solidarity and capacious grief, something that also exists within Vietnamese tradition. When we encounter others who have experienced loss, we like to say we chia buồn, we share sorrow. Chia buồn saves us from drowning in sorrow and from drowning others in our sorrow. Expansive solidarity, capacious grief, and the sharing of sorrow all help us to answer the question of who we should feel solidarity with. That answer is simple and yet difficult. Whoever is the cockroach, whoever is the human animal, whoever is the other. Thank you.